Thank you.
Very good. Any other committee members have questions at this time? Okay, gentlemen, thank you. I'll ask Commissioner Gassett to come to the table and bring his guest with him if he likes. I do see, I'd like to recognize Senator Pendleton back there. Welcome to the committee. You're glad to have you in here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate you having us here today to speak about the bill. I'd like to first introduce Dr. Karen Waldrop. I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to her new name. Karen is our Wildlife Division Director, PhD wildlife biologist, and been with the agency for about 7 years now. She is now handling our legislative duties as well, and I'll be getting a memo to each of you shortly indicating that. So any issues you have legislatively with Fish and Wildlife, if you need instant service, Karen is our go-to girl. So appreciate it if y'all would welcome her with open arms. I listened with interest with the comments of the previous speakers, one of which is my boss, of course, one of my 9 bosses, so I always listen with interest whenever they speak. But something struck me when I was sitting there, and that's that I don't want to go unnoticed, and that's that Mr. Nethery spoke of passion. I'll tell you that I'm a wildlife biologist. I'm a PhD wildlife biologist. This is my calling. It's my career. It's everything I've ever wanted to be. Dr. Waldrop is the same way. I won't go into the details on turkey seasons and those sorts of things. I'll tell you that neither of us nor any of our staff would ever recommend nor do anything or propose anything that would damage the resources of the Commonwealth. We have some of the finest resources anywhere in the country. Great turkey and deer and elk populations, great trout and stripers and so on and so forth. Everybody knows what we have. We take our mission very seriously, and our mission is the protection of those resources and providing opportunities for our customers to participate in the take of those resources. So that being said, I just want to point out that there's a lot of passion here on all sides. I know there's passion on the part of the Senate and on the House, and there's passion on the part of the department and the sportsmen and the commission, and I just don't want that to get lost in the translation. I think everybody's trying to do good things. There's more than one way to get there sometimes. So that being said, I have heard the explanation of the bill and taken a look at the language. Be honest with you, we don't have a tremendous number of concerns. There's nothing in there that really jumps out at us as being a major obstacle for us, and I was unsure before today whether or not that would be the case. I do have some comments and some clarifications or questions on specific issues, and hope and offer up whatever we can do to provide to work with the Senate and once it gets on the House side with the House to get the best possible product. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I can go through just a couple of brief comments on specific issues there or clarifications that we have, and maybe we can get some questions resolved, and if not, we'll be willing to work down the road to try to get these things in the best form that they need to be for everybody. So if that's okay with you.
Yeah, very good.
An audit was mentioned, and I think that is an important, as most people do, an important component of this bill. I'll be the first to tell you, Fish and Wildlife is not and never will be afraid of an audit of any sort or fashion. We are probably audited more than any other agency in state government because of the nexus with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service dollars, Coast Guard dollars, so on and so forth. So we undergo an audit through the Auditor of Public Accounts on a 3-year basis, as most agencies do. I think the Auditor of Public Accounts has a schedule that they set up so that they rotate through the agencies. Obviously, they can't do all agencies every year. That audit, our most recent audit with the Auditor of Public Accounts was for the 2007 year. It came out clean. There were a few process issues in there that were resolved immediately, but there were no substantial findings whatsoever. We are due another one of those for 2010. Now, that is for the fiscal year 2010, so it'll have to take place probably the beginning of the next fiscal year is when I would expect them to contact us and start gearing up. But we're certainly not concerned about audits. We run a clean ship. We always have, and I think our audit history will back that up. We undergo a federal audit every 5 years. We are in the process of one of those now also for 2010. Our last federal audit in 2005 also came up clean with a couple of exceptions, basically a land transaction or a timber taking in Meade County on the Yellow Bank Wildlife Management Area. Because it was purchased with federal funds, because the timber was harvested illegally, that showed up on the federal audit. So in full disclosure, I'll tell you that one did come up. It's in the court system now. It's being resolved. We're basically in mediation with the opposing party. So, but other than that, the federal audit came clean. The state audit came clean, and we're due each of those for the 2010 year. So we have no problem with an audit. From a timing perspective, there are some concerns with if we go to an annual audit from the Auditor of Public Accounts. Obviously, we have to pay for these things, so that is additional sportsman's dollars and is additional dollars out of the general fund. I don't think we completely pay the Auditor of Public Accounts. I think we offset some of the costs. So just as a note there, that could be a little bit of a fiscal impact.
If I could interrupt you just for a second, just allow me. Senator Tapp has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, when you talk about that cost for an audit on an annual basis, what would that cost you?
It varies between federal and state audits. I believe our last federal audit was, our last state audit was $20,000 to $30,000 plus staff time. Of course, we have to help provide staff to help them find the documents they need and that sort of thing. But so state audits aren't that bad. But once again, I think the Auditor of Public Accounts underwrites some of that cost too. I think we share the burden there. On the federal audit, it's a little more expensive and a little more time consuming.
Well, this legislation doesn't address the federal.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear you say that you don't have a problem with an audit.
Yes,
and the one of the things that I want to make sure that we do with that audit is a report back to the legislature, which is not done right now. So it's hard for the legislative body to be able to ask those questions that their constituents may ask them.
Yes, sir.
But and I don't mean to be facetious or cause a little trouble here, but in full disclosure, just answer me a pure question, yes or no. Have you in the past few days told some different sportsmen's groups that this audit of 64 that's going to demand would cost the sportsmen $250,000 a year?
No, sir. Now,
okay.
I can clarify your comment or your question if
Please
you'd
do.
like. The request for the audit that I saw in the resolution that was brought forth by the league was a different animal from an audit from the Auditor of Public Accounts. We've always said we work. We're used to having to deal with the Auditor of Public Accounts. Whether they want to do it on an annual basis, 3-year basis, whatever is fine with us because it's a reasonable cost for us to assume. If you ask for a third party non-governmental organization to come in and do an audit, those are much more
Well, we're
expensive.
just talking about what's in this bill. We're not talking about what was in the league's resolution.
Yes, sir. And I haven't seen this particular language until today. So all I could go by was what was in the resolution, and that was the comment I was making, where it could exceed $100,000 if it's a third party organization that comes in from the outside and has to do an audit. They charge a lot more than
Well,
the
auditor's office just finished the KYSB audit, which lasted for 5 months, and they had 8 full-time investigators and employees on that audit, and they did that audit for less than $100,000.
Right.
So, but anyway, and if this committee sub's been floating around for a little while, and I know some of the members didn't get it till today, but it's been around. It's been around. I promise you that, because some of the organizations it was sent out to last week by email. Okay, so maybe our committee members didn't get it all, but it's been around. And if you guys would have